And we're a very open family, so we talk about things that bother us and things that trouble us. But you never quite know the knock-on effects it can have. The palace staff knew something was terribly wrong when they heard the sound. It came from behind closed doors, a sound they had never heard before in all their years of service. Prince William was crying, deep, broken sobs that seemed to tear through the walls themselves. What could break a man who had buried his mother with dry eyes at 15? What could shatter a prince, trained from birth to never show weakness? Hours earlier, Catherine had locked the sitting room door, and no one was allowed in, just the family. When the children finally emerged, their faces were pale and their eyes wide with shock. What had their mother told them in that room? Medical emergency? Royal scandal? A threat to the crown? But the truth, when it finally came out, was something nobody could have predicted. Something that made every other royal crisis look insignificant. Something that would change their lives forever. The announcement Catherine made that day contained a secret so explosive, so deeply personal, that when you hear it, you will understand why William cried as if his world were ending. Because in many ways it was. Stay with us. The strange behavior. Something had shifted in Princess Kate months ago, though pinpointing exactly when proved impossible. William replayed conversations in his mind, searching for the moment things changed. But the transformation had been gradual, almost invisible until suddenly it was not. She started declining invitations she would normally accept, citing exhaustion or scheduling conflicts that did not quite add up. Her usual warmth at public appearances seemed forced, her smiles practiced rather than genuine. Palace staff noticed too, whispering in corners about how the princess seemed distracted, somewhere else, even when physically present. The first concrete sign came during a family dinner, when Catherine abruptly excused herself, claiming a headache. William followed her upstairs minutes later and found her sitting on the bathroom floor, phone clutched in her hand, tears streaming down her face. She quickly wiped her eyes when she heard him approach, straightening her posture, rebuilding the walls he had just glimpsed behind. When he asked what was wrong, she insisted it was nothing, just stress from their packed schedule. He wanted to push harder, to demand honesty, but something in her expression stopped him. She was not ready to talk. Forcing the issue would only make her retreat further. George mentioned to his father, in a private moment, that Mum had been acting weird. She picked him up from school 3 times last week, instead of sending protection officers, something she rarely did without planning. She asked him strange questions during the drive home, questions about his dreams for the future, what he valued most in life, whether he ever wished their family were normal, whatever normal meant. George found the conversations unsettling, not because they were inappropriate, but because his mother seemed desperate for his answers, as if his words carried weight beyond casual curiosity. Charlotte noticed her mother crying in the garden one afternoon, hidden behind rose bushes, where she thought no one could see. Charlotte did not interrupt, sensing this was private grief not meant for sharing, but the image haunted her. Her mother was the strongest person she knew, someone who handled everything with grace and determination. Seeing her broken like that frightened Charlotte in ways she could not articulate. She mentioned it to her father cautiously, unsure if she was betraying her confidence. William thanked her gently as his concern deepened into something closer to danger. The palace staff reported other oddities. Princess Kate had requested access to the royal archives, which are typically reserved for historical research. She spent hours reading through old documents, and when asked about her sudden interest in family history, she claimed she was preparing material for a future project about royal heritage. The explanation seemed plausible, but felt incomplete. William confronted her one evening after the children were asleep. He had reached his breaking point, unable to ignore the mounting evidence that something serious was happening. "Catherine, please, whatever this is, we face it together. You do not have to carry this alone." She looked at him with eyes full of pain, and something else he could not identify. Fear, perhaps, or guilt. "I know," she whispered, "and I promise I will tell you everything soon. But right now, I need you to trust me. I need you to believe that what I am doing is necessary, even if it does not make sense yet." Her words offered no comfort, only deepened the mystery consuming their lives. Sleep became difficult for William. He lay awake at night, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. Was she ill? The thought terrified him beyond measure. Was someone threatening her? Blackmail was not uncommon for people in their position. Had she discovered something about the family? Some secret that changed everything she thought she knew? Each possibility seemed more frightening than the last. He considered hiring private investigators, but dismissed the idea immediately. That would betray her trust, violate their marriage in ways he could not justify. So he waited, trapped between respecting her privacy and drowning in his own anxiety. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon. William returned home early from an engagement that finished ahead of schedule. He walked through the front door and heard Catherine's voice coming from the study. She was on the phone, her tone urgent and emotional. "Ik weet niet hoe lang ik dit nog voor ze verborgen kan houden. Ze verdienen het om het te weten. Elke dag die voorbij gaat, maakt het moeilijker. William verstijfde in de gang, wilde niet afluisteren, maar kon zich niet bewegen. Catherine sprak verder. Haar stem brak. Ik ben doodsbang voor wat dit met hen zal doen. Hoe moet ik het überhaupt uitleggen? Hoe moet ik ze vertellen dat hun hele leven op het punt staat te veranderen? De persoon aan de andere kant van de lijn antwoordde, maar William kon niet horen wat ze zeiden. William deed een stap achteruit. Zijn hart bonkte zo hard dat hij dacht dat het zou barsten. Welk geheim Catherine ook met zich meedroeg. Het zou de volgende dag onthuld worden. De rest van de dag bracht hij in een waas door, zonder echt aanwezig te zijn. Hij keek naar zijn kinderen tijdens het avondeten, hun onschuldige gezichten niet beseffend dat er iets op komst was. Iets groots genoeg om hun hele leven te veranderen, volgens Catherine's eigen woorden. Wat kon er in vredesnaam zo belangrijk zijn? Zijn gedachten tolden door de mogelijkheden, maar kwamen steeds weer leeg terug. Niets klopte, alles voelde verkeerd. Die avond ging prinses Kate laat naar bed. Ze klom naast William en zei een lange tijd niets. Toen sprak ze zachtjes, bijna onhoorbaar. William wilde 1000 vragen stellen, maar haar gezichtsuitdrukking hield hem tegen omdat ze zich nauwelijks kon beheersen. De aankondiging die alles die ochtend veranderde, kwam met een bedrieglijke normaliteit. Het ontbijt werd klaargemaakt. Kinderen aten en lachten en maakten ruzie over typische broer-zus-onzin. Catherine werkte de routine mechanisch af. Haar gedachten waren duidelijk ergens anders. William keek haar aandachtig aan en merkte op hoe haar handen licht trilden terwijl ze sap inschonk en hoe ze steeds naar de klok keek. Ook alsof ze tegelijkertijd vreesde en verwachtte wat er zou komen. Na het ontbijt nodigde ze iedereen uit om in de woonkamer te komen. De kinderen wisselden nieuwsgierige blikken uit, maar gehoorzaamden, omdat ze voelden dat dit geen vrijblijvende opdracht was. Ze gingen op banken zitten, de 3 kinderen dicht op elkaar, William en Catherine tegenover hen. De kamer voelde op de een of andere manier kleiner aan. De lucht dikker. Catherine haalde diep adem en vouwde haar handen in elkaar om het trillen te stoppen. Ik weet dat dit vreemd klinkt, maar ik heb iets belangrijks te vertellen. Iets wat ik je al lang geleden had moeten vertellen. Haar stem was vastberaden, ondanks de tranen die zich al in haar ogen vormden. William boog zich voorover, elke spier in zijn lichaam gespannen, zich schrap zettend voor de klap zonder te weten wat er ging gebeuren. Catherine keek elk kind afzonderlijk aan, ook het onthouden van hun gezichten, voordat wat er ook gebeurde en voorgoed veranderde. Je weet hoeveel je vader en ik van je houden. Hoe we alles zouden doen om je te beschermen en je het best mogelijke leven te geven. De kinderen knikten, verward over waar dit heen ging. George, de oudste, nam het woord. Mam, je maakt ons bang. Waar gaat dit over? Catherine slikte moeizaam en verzamelde moed voor woorden die er duidelijk niet uit wilden komen. Dit gaat over ons gezin, over beslissingen die ik heb genomen voordat jij geboren werd. Beslissingen die jullie allemaal raken op manieren die ik destijds niet helemaal begreep. Williams' verwarring werd groter. Wat kon er zo ver teruggaan voordat ze geboren waren? Catherine vervolgde. Haar stem daalde tot nauwelijks meer dan een fluistering. Toen je vader en ik trouwden, wilden we dolgraag kinderen. Maar het ging niet zo makkelijk als we hadden gehoopt. We hebben er lang over geworsteld. We hebben specialisten bezocht, verschillende opties geprobeerd en teleurstellingen meegemaakt die ons bijna de das omdeden. Williams' gedachten raasden door zijn hoofd. Hij herinnerde zich die moeilijke jaren, de persoonlijke pijn die ze hadden doorstaan terwijl ze in het openbaar moesten optreden. Maar ze hadden het overleefd. Ze hadden hun kinderen. Dus wat zei Catherine? Ze haalde nog eens trillend adem. Uiteindelijk zochten we hulp via geavanceerde medische procedures, behandelingen die ons de grootste kans gaven op het stichten van het gezin waar we van droomden. De kinderen luisterden, begrepen het niet helemaal, maar voelden de ernst aan van wat hun moeder onthulde. Catherine's volgende woorden kwamen er gehaast uit, ook al zou het makkelijker zijn als ze snel uitgesproken zouden worden. Tijdens die behandelingen maakten we keuzes over genetische selectie. Medische beslissingen die ik als routine beschouwde, waarvan ik dacht dat ze gewoon gezonde zwangerschappen zouden garanderen. Maar onlangs leerde ik iets dat alles wat ik dacht te weten over die keuzes veranderde. William voelde ijs door zijn aderen stromen. Genetische selectie, medische beslissingen. Waar ging dit heen? Catherine keek hem nu recht aan. Tranen vloeiden rijkelijk. William, de kliniek waar we naartoe gingen en de artsen die we vertrouwden, waren niet helemaal eerlijk tegen ons over wat ze deden. Ik ontdekte het maanden geleden via een medisch onderzoek dat volledig los van ons plaatsvond. De kliniek had ongeoorloofde genetische modificaties uitgevoerd. Experimentele procedures die ze nooit aan hun patiënten vertelden. Procedures die van invloed waren op de kinderen die we daar verwekten. De hele zaal draaide. William hoorde de woorden, maar kon ze niet verwerken. Genetische modificaties. Ongeoorloofd. Experimenteel. Zijn kinderen. Catherine haastte zich verder. Ze moest alles eruit gooien voordat ze de moed zou verliezen. Ik heb samengewerkt met advocaten en medische experts om precies te begrijpen wat er is gedaan en wat het betekent. De aanpassingen waren niet schadelijk. Sterker nog, ze waren bedoeld om bepaalde eigenschappen, intelligentie, fysieke gezondheid en weerstand tegen ziekten te verbeteren. Dingen die positief klinken, maar enorme ethische vragen oproepen. Vragen over toestemming, God spelen en wat het betekent voor de toekomst van onze kinderen. George stond abrupt op. Zijn gezicht bleek. What are you saying? That we are not normal? That someone changed us before we were even born? Catherine reached for him, but he stepped back, his expression a mixture of confusion and anger. You let someone experiment on us? George, no, Catherine said desperately. We did not know. We never would have agreed to this if we had known. We thought we were just doing standard fertility treatments. The clinic lied to us, to dozens of families. We are victims in this too. Charlotte started crying, overwhelmed by information she could not fully understand, but knowing it was terrible. Louis looked between his parents and siblings, his young mind struggling to grasp why everyone was so upset. William finally found his voice, though it came out strangled and foreign. How long have you known? How long have you been carrying this alone? Catherine met his eyes, guilt and anguish written across her face. 3 months. I have known for 3 months. I did not tell you because I needed to understand it first, know exactly what we were dealing with before bringing it to you. I thought I was protecting everyone. But I see now I was just protecting myself from having to face this. William stood, his legs unsteady beneath him. He needed air, space, something to ground him in a reality that no longer made sense. His children had been genetically modified without his knowledge or consent. Someone had altered their fundamental biology for reasons he did not understand, with consequences he could not predict. The violation felt incomprehensible, too large to fit inside his mind. He looked at Catherine, saw her breaking apart, and felt his own control shattering. Tears came then, unstoppable and raw. He walked out of the room, down the hall, anywhere but there. He could not breathe, could not think, could only feel the crushing weight of a truth that was about to change everything. Catherine found William in their bedroom an hour later. He sat on the edge of the bed, face buried in his hands, body shaking with sobs that had not stopped since he left the sitting room. She approached slowly, unsure of her reception, knowing she deserved his anger, but hoping for his understanding. William, she said softly, please let me explain everything. He looked up, his eyes red and swollen. Explain? How do you explain keeping something like this from me for 3 months? How do you justify making that decision alone? She sat beside him, maintaining distance but close enough to touch if he allowed it. You are right. I should have told you immediately, but I was terrified. Terrified of what it meant. Terrified of how you would react. Terrified of what it would do to the children. I spent 3 months investigating, trying to understand the full scope of what happened, gathering evidence and legal advice. I wanted to come to you with answers, not just problems. William shook his head. We are partners, Catherine. We face problems together. Je hebt me die keuze ontnomen. Je besloot dat ik de waarheid niet aankon, dat je me moest beschermen. Maar wie beschermde jou terwijl je deze nachtmerrie alleen droeg? Zijn woorden maakten iets in haar los. Ze begon harder te huilen. Jaren van controle braken eindelijk. Het spijt me zo. Ik weet dat ik fout zat. Maar ik wist niet hoe ik je moest vertellen dat onze prachtige kinderen in een soort experiment waren veranderd. Hoe zeg je die woorden hardop zonder alles te vernietigen? William trok haar toen naar zich toe. Zijn woede loste op in gedeeld verdriet. Ze omhelsten elkaar en huilden. 2 mensen die talloze uitdagingen hadden overwonnen, maar niets dat hen voorbereidde op deze specifieke horror. Na een tijdje trok William zich terug en veegde zijn ogen af. Vertel me alles, elk detail dat je hebt geleerd. Ik moet begrijpen waar we mee te maken hebben. Catherine knikte, dankbaar voor de kans om eindelijk de last te delen. Ze legde uit hoe ze voor het eerst over het onderzoek hoorde. Een journalist had maanden geleden contact opgenomen met het paleis naar aanleiding van een tip over vruchtbaarheidsklinieken die ongeoorloofde procedures uitvoerden. De journalist was bezig met het verzamelen van informatie voor een onthulling, maar wilde de getroffen families voor publicatie informeren. Catherine's naam stond op een lijst met potentiële slachtoffers, gebaseerd op gelekte kliniekgegevens. Aanvankelijk deed Catherine het af als onzin, een complottheorie, maar de journalisten leverden documentatie die niet zomaar genegeerd kon worden. Medische dossiers met procedures die nooit openbaar werden gemaakt. Vervalste toestemmingsformulieren. Wetenschappelijke artikelen gepubliceerd door de hoofdonderzoeker van de kliniek, waarin experimentele genetische modificaties werden besproken die bedoeld waren om verbeterde nakomelingen te creëren. De artikelen gebruikten codetaal en noemden geen specifieke patiënten, maar de tijdlijn kwam exact overeen met het tijdstip waarop Catherine en William de behandeling ondergingen. Catherine huurde privédetectives en medische experts in om de informatie onafhankelijk te verifiëren. Alles klopte. De kliniek voerde jarenlang een illegaal programma uit, gericht op rijke en invloedrijke families. De aanpassingen waren geavanceerd en richtten zich op meerdere genen die verband houden met intelligentie, fysieke gezondheid en een lang leven. De kinderen die via dit programma geboren werden, waren in wezen verbeterde versies van wat ze van nature zouden zijn geweest. Niet dramatisch anders, maar geoptimaliseerd op manieren die diepgaande ethische vragen opriepen. William luisterde. Zijn afschuw groeide met elk nieuw detail. Waarom zouden ze dit doen? Wat zouden ze er in vredesnaam mee winnen? Catherine legde uit dat de hoofdonderzoeker, Dr. Marcus Holloway, geloofde dat hij de menselijke evolutie bevorderde. Hij zag rijke families als ideale proefpersonen, omdat ze de middelen hadden om hun kinderen betere kansen te bieden om hun volledige potentieel te bereiken. In his twisted logic, he was doing humanity a favor, creating a generation of superior individuals who would lead society forward. The fact that he was doing it without consent apparently did not trouble his conscience. The investigation had uncovered dozens of affected families across multiple countries. Some were royalty like them. Others were celebrities, business leaders and politicians. All people with influence and resources. All people whose children were now walking experiments. Several families had already begun legal action against the clinic and doctor. Holloway personally, criminal charges were pending. But legal justice did not address the immediate question facing every affected family. What did they tell their children? How did they help them process this information? William asked about medical implications. Were the children at risk? Did the modifications cause health problems? Catherine explained that according to experts she consulted, the modifications appeared stable and did not pose immediate health threats. But long-term effects were unknown because this had never been done before. The children would need ongoing medical monitoring. Genetic counseling would be important as they got older and considered having their own children someday. The modifications might be heritable, passed to future generations. The full ramifications spread farther than anyone could have predicted. George appeared in the doorway, his face hard and closed off. Are you finished talking about us like we are science projects? William and Catherine jumped, not realizing he had been listening. George stepped into the room, anger radiating from his young body. Do we get a say in any of this? Or do you just make all the decisions like you have been doing? William reached for him, but George pulled away. You let someone change us, change who we are at the most basic level. And now you are crying like you are the victims. But we are the ones who have to live with this. We are the ones who are different. Catherine stood and approached her son carefully. George, you are not different in any way that matters. You are still you. Still, the boy I gave birth to, raised and loved every single day of your life. These modifications do not define you. They do not change who you are as a person. George laughed bitterly, a sound too cynical for his age. You do not know that. None of us knows what this means. Maybe everything about me is artificial. Maybe I am not even really your son, just some designer baby created in a lab. The pain in his voice broke both parents' hearts. William crossed the room and grabbed George's shoulders firmly but gently. Listen to me. You are my son. Nothing changes that. Not some doctor's illegal experiment, not genetic modifications. Nothing. You came from your mother and me. You have been loved and wanted since before you were born. Whatever was done to you was done without our knowledge or permission. But it does not change the fundamental truth that you are ours and we are yours. George's anger crumbled, replaced by fear and confusion. What if I am not who I think I am? What if everything I thought I knew about myself is wrong? Catherine joined them, wrapping both William and George in her arms. Then we figure it out together. We learn who you are, who your brother and sister are. Beyond whatever modifications were made, we help you understand that you are more than your genetics. You are your choices, your character, your heart. Those things were never modified. Those are purely, authentically you. George collapsed into his parents, finally allowing himself to be comforted, to be the scared child he actually was, rather than the strong front he had been trying to maintain. The family fractures and heals. The following days were brutal. Charlotte retreated into herself, barely speaking, spending hours alone in her room. Louis, too young to fully grasp the situation, sensed the family's distress and became clingy and anxious. George oscillated between anger and despair, one moment raging against the unfairness of what had been done to them, the next moment terrified about what it meant for his future. William and Catherine tried to hold everyone together while processing their own trauma. The weight was crushing. Palace officials were brought into the situation out of necessity. This was not something that could be hidden, especially with legal proceedings underway and journalists preparing to publish their investigations. Crisis management teams assembled, lawyers drafted statements, and medical experts were consulted about how to present the information publicly. King Charles was informed and reacted with predictable fury. He demanded meetings with lawyers, threatened lawsuits against everyone involved, and insisted that heads would roll for this violation of his family. But beneath the anger, William saw fear. His father was terrified for his grandchildren, uncertain about what this meant for their futures, and a sense of succession for the monarchy itself. Questions swirled about whether genetically modified individuals could inherit the throne. Legal scholars were consulted. Historical precedents were examined. The situation was unprecedented, leaving everyone in uncharted territory. Queen Camilla took a different approach, visiting often, bringing books and games, sitting quietly with Charlotte when words felt inadequate, and playing with Louis to provide moments of normalcy. Her presence was calming, a steady anchor in a storm that showed no signs of ending. She told Catherine privately that dwelling on how this happened would drive everyone mad. The only productive path forward was focusing on supporting the children through this revelation and helping them build identities not defined by circumstances beyond their control. Extended family members' gatherings became tense, everyone trying to act normal while elephants filled every room. The children felt the awkwardness, the careful way relatives now looked at them, and it only deepened their sense of being different, other, wrong somehow. The decision was made to tell the public sooner rather than later. A carefully worded statement was prepared, explaining that the family had discovered they were victims of an unauthorized medical experiment conducted years ago. The statement emphasized that they were working with authorities to ensure those responsible faced justice. The reaction was explosive. Social media erupted with speculation and conspiracy theories. News outlets ran constant coverage, bringing on experts to discuss the ethics of genetic modification, the implications for the royal family, and the future of fertility treatments. Public opinion was sharply divided, with some expressing sympathy and others outrage on the family's behalf. Others questioned whether genetically enhanced royals represented an unfair advantage, a literal superior class. Debates raged about whether the children should be allowed to inherit titles and positions. The noise was deafening and inescapable. William and Catherine decided to shield the children from media coverage as much as possible. Devices were restricted. Internet access was monitored. They created a bubble of protection within their home, a space where the outside world's judgment could not penetrate. But complete isolation was impossible. Classmates had internet access, so information leaked in through cracks despite best efforts. George came home from school one day with a black eye, having gotten into a fight with a boy who called him a lab rat. The school handled it discreetly, but the incident reinforced how impossible normal would be for the foreseeable future. Therapy became essential. The entire family entered counseling, both individually and together. A therapist specializing in medical trauma helped them process, and the therapist worked specifically with the children, giving them tools to understand their feelings and build resilience against external judgment. These sessions were exhausting, but necessary. Slowly, painfully, they began rebuilding their sense of identity and family cohesion. Progress was not linear. Terrible ones followed good days, but gradually the terrible days became less frequent, and the therapist was horrified that his accomplishments were not really his, that anything he achieved would be attributed to artificial enhancements rather than his own effort and ability. How could he ever know if he earned something or if it was just programming? The therapist helped him understand that modifications might have affected potential, but actualization of that potential still required work, and that modifications did not guarantee success. He was still fully responsible for who he became and what he did with his life. Charlotte's breakthrough came differently. She had been drawing obsessively dark images full of pain and confusion. One day, she showed her parents a new picture. It depicted their family as superheroes, each member with unique powers. Standing together, maybe they could use whatever made them special to help people, to do good in ways others could not. Her childlike optimism pierced through everyone's darkness, reminding them that perspective was a choice. They could view this as a curse or as an unexpected gift. Neither interpretation was wrong, but one offered more possibilities than the other. In pain, months after the initial announcement of the case, not healed, because wounds this deep do not heal quickly or completely, but surviving, adapting, and learning to carry what could not be fixed. William threw himself into more advocacy work, partnering with organizations pushing for stricter regulations on fertility clinics and genetic research. Princess Kate focused on supporting other affected families, creating a private network where different families could connect, reducing their isolation by introducing them to others who understood their unique situation. These gatherings were carefully guarded with strict confidentiality agreements, protecting everyone's privacy. Friendships formed, support systems built, a community created from shared trauma. The legal case against Dr. Holloway and the clinic moved forward, though slowly. Criminal charges included fraud, assault from dozens of families sought damages and accountability. Holloway showed no remorse, maintaining in interviews that his work was visionary and that history would vindicate him. His arrogance only strengthened the family's resolve to see him punished to the fullest extent possible. Trials would likely take years, but no one was backing down. Justice demanded persistence. George channeled his experience into academics, education, designer babies, and the philosophical questions surrounding human enhancement. His teachers noted increased maturity and focus, a seriousness of purpose unusual for his age. Hij vertelde zijn ouders dat hij deel wilde uitmaken van het gesprek over de genetische toekomst van de mensheid, om ervoor te zorgen dat wat hem was overkomen nooit iemand anders zou overkomen. Zijn trauma werd zijn missie, zijn pijn transformeerde, maar haar onderwerp veranderde. Ze begon stukken te maken die diversiteit en verschil vierden en de conventionele definities van normaal uitdaagden. Haar school exposeerde haar werk in een galerie en de reacties waren overweldigend. Mensen voelden zich verbonden met haar boodschap en zagen in haar jonge perspectief een wijsheid die haar leeftijd oversteeg. Ze begon uitnodigingen te ontvangen om haar werk breder te exposeren. Prinses Kate en William onderzochten zorgvuldig de mogelijkheden en boden tegelijkertijd een podium voor haar stem. Louis bleef de lichtbron van de familie. Zijn onschuld bleef op de een of andere manier intact, ondanks alles om hem heen. Hij benaderde het leven met ongecompliceerde vreugde, vond geluk in kleine momenten en herinnerde iedereen eraan dat duisternis niet alles hoefde te verteren. Zijn lach was medicijn, zijn knuffels helend. Het gezin leerde soms zijn voorbeeld te volgen, afstand te nemen van zware vragen en verwerking. Die momenten van simpele aanwezigheid werden net zo belangrijk als therapiesessies. Het huwelijk van William en Catherine kwam er sterker maar anders uit. Ze hadden de ultieme test van hun partnerschap doorstaan, waarbij ze verraad, geheimen en trauma's moesten trotseren die zwakkere banden zouden hebben vernietigd. Ze leerden met brute eerlijkheid te communiceren en hun angsten en problemen niet langer voor elkaar te verbergen. Hun intimiteit verdiepte zich en oude wonden werden weer opengehaald. Maar ze hadden bewezen dat ze samen stormen konden doorstaan en die kennis hielp hen door latere moeilijkheden heen. De publieke opinie veranderde geleidelijk toen het gezin veerkracht en gratie toonde. De aanvankelijke sensatiezucht vervaagde en maakte plaats voor onwillig respect voor hoe ze met een onmogelijke situatie omgingen. Opiniepeilingen lieten een toenemende steun zien, waarbij velen hen als sympathieke figuren beschouwden, maar ze weigerden het ook niet. Ze concentreerden zich simpelweg op vooruitgang, op het opbouwen van levens die niet bepaald werden door wat hen was aangedaan, maar door hoe ze ervoor kozen te reageren. Een jaar na de aankondiging zat het gezin samen in hun woonkamer, een tafereel dat voor elke toeschouwer normaal zou zijn geweest, maar voor hen een buitengewone impact had. Ze hadden het overleefd. Hun kinderen floreerden ondanks alles. Hun gezin bleef intact. Ze trotseerden de onzekerheid samen, gewapend met liefde, steun en de met moeite verworven wijsheid over veerkracht. William keek naar Kate en herinnerde zich die vreselijke dag waarop ze haar aankondiging deed, toen zijn tranen eindeloos leken. Hij pakte haar hand, onbeschrijfelijk dankbaar voor haar moed, voor haar kracht, voor haar aanwezigheid naast hem in de hel. Ze kneep terug. Het geluid van televisie. Het geluid vulde de kamer met de normaliteit waar ze zo hard voor hadden gevochten. Dit was hun leven nu. Niet perfect en niet wat ze verwacht hadden. Maar het was van hen, authentiek en met moeite verworven. En dat was genoeg. There it is. A family's private nightmare in public reckoning. If this story moved you as deeply as it moved us, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world.